Hello, everybody. Good to have you all here. It's Wednesday, 22nd of May. It's time for our spiritual light. And today's topic it is charity, love your neighbor. Charity, love your neighbor. So good to have you all here. Bonsoir, Charles. How are you, my friend?
Bonsoir Steven, bonsoir Silvia, hello, good morning, good afternoon,
Bonsoir, Charles.
good evening everyone. Very happy to be here again with you all today to talk about this wonderful subject.
Great. Good evening, Miss Gibbons. How are you, my dear?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm well, thank you, and I hope everyone are well as well. And as Charles said, it is a very interesting topic and lots to think about because it's not as simple as it seems. So, welcome and participate if you like. Ask a question, make a comment. That would be nice. And it's really nice to be with you and Stephen and Charles, once again for this work. So it'll be good to have it today. And boa tarde, bom dia a todos que estiverem nos ouvindo em português. Vai ser um tópico bem interessante hoje. Bem-vindos a todos. Thank you.
Okay, good. Um, So, let me share my screen and we can watch our video today. There we go.
Whatever it is that we can give, there's always something we can give. And so charity compels us to move forward.
Being able to educate people is a form of charity because moral misery is due to lack of moral education. People fall into social misery, economic misery, sometimes because they lack that moral education or that moral component in order for them to deal with that. Because there are some people that are in economic disarray, but have a strong faith, that have a strong ability to understand and accept and submit themselves to, in that incarnation, the experiences that God has given to them.
Charity is great for those who receive it, of course, but it's even better for those who do it, because it really teaches to detach ourselves from our own tiny little world. And I think a lot of what our evolutionary process is about is for us to realize that we are not the brightest center of the universe.
You really need to be able to give your time, to give, not give money, give your ears to listen, give even your opinion, your wisdom to someone that is in need. So, but when we do this, sometimes we think that we are help the other, but truly we are help ourselves. If we have to define charity, we would say that charity is love in action.
Okay. I like to start with where the sentence the video just finished. Charity is love in action. I think this is a wonderful way to define charity. And we saw a mass charity going on during the COVID time. We saw a mass action recently with what happened in the south state of Brazil. And I do believe this is our path, working united, working together, respecting each one's boundaries, someone covering my weaknesses. I'm covering someone's weaknesses because perhaps their weaknesses is my strength and the other way around. So, based on that, we can say, Charles, uh, the time Kardec gave to codify the books wasn't in a certain way a charity. He donated his time, his life to do all this. So, how is the how is the charity in France, Charles? What's the how the French people practice charity in France?
Yeah, it's a good question. The first thing is to try to define what is exactly charity. Charity is not just throwing a coin to poor people, homeless in the street, and even less making a selfie whilst you are doing it. So charity is more than that. There is material charity, but there is also the moral charity. And that's why Kardec has defined the meaning of the word charity in asking the spirits, question 886 of the spirits book, what is the true meaning of charity? And they answered, benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfection of the others, and forgiveness of the offenses we suffered. So you can see it's not saying charity is just to throw a coin. Well, nevertheless, the material charity is very important, and I think France is part of the countries where we have most non-NGOs, non-government organizations, helping wherever children, homeless, starving people in France and also throughout the whole world, medical assistance and so on. And they are very, to say, helped a lot. Of course, there are also some tax advantages for the people to do so. The government is somehow encouraging this, but the people are really doing it. Now, with regards to this larger, wider sense of charity, let me just repeat again. Benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfection of the others, of our neighbors, and forgiveness of the offenses. Imagine now, just 1 second, if the big part, the majority of the population would really apply this in their attitude and in the facts. We can imagine that the world would be completely different than it is. Even in France, France would be much different if really the people would apply this. And that's exactly what the spirits, what Jesus told us already 2,000 years ago, what the spirits have repeated and repeated again 160 years ago with the spiritist body of knowledge, whose motto is, out of charity, there is no salvation. This means it's not out of spiritist body of knowledge, there is no salvation. It's not out of the Spirit's book or the gospel according to Spiritism that there is no salvation. It's out of charity in the meaning I just gave, there is no salvation. And that is exactly what qualifies the spirits which have already reached a degree of evolution to put this love into action, as you said, to put this into practice. We still are a little bit far away from that. If I would say, if we would apply this indulgence, benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness for instance, in Middle East or in Russia, Ukraine, there would absolutely be no war. The people would simply live together, everyone willing the best for the neighbor, everyone doing to the neighbor what they would like the neighbor to do onto themselves. And that would completely change the world. And it is the sustainable future of our world goes through this charity, goes through this goodness of the people, and not through A by A for A, tooth for tooth, or with I get one bomb, I send 10 back, or whatever. This will never solve the problems. In this war, there are only losers, whilst with benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness, this will be really the sustainable future. And I would say just one example. We had in the 20th century two terrible wars, WW1 and WW2. And what happened after WW2? The people said, "Oh, enough. Now we cannot continue like this." And look today, between French and German, for instance, which were the enemies of those wars. Today, it's how to say excellent relationship one to the other. Of course, we don't agree on everything. We have different ways to see some things, different cultures, different language, and so on. But I'm here living close to the boundary of Germany. I mean, you just cross the boundary, and even I have the luck to understand German and to speak German. I feel at home. They are my brothers, like I'm their brothers. And this is really the example that we should spread around the world. You see, the sustainable future, the quality of life reached in a win-win situation where everyone is willing the best for the neighbor.
Yeah, it is. I asked it because I asked the question because in Brazil we see charity through actions like people donating food, preparing food to distribute to the poor people. Blah, blah, blah. Here in Ireland, we don't see it because they don't need it. Let's put it this in a quote. But we see charity in another way. We see a lack of moral charity here. So nobody to talk. People are kind of apart from each other. And when you want to do something for the others, you need to enroll yourself. It's not just buy some sandwich and give to the people on the street, because if one of them do not feel comfortable with the sandwich, they can prosecute you. And you, my dear Silvia, do you see any way it's good to help our British people?
Well, it is. I mean, there are a lot of. I think it's England is Britain. It's an extremely charitable place in receiving people from abroad, and also whenever there is any need, everybody seems to come out, and they have a very special way as well of doing things. They make it fun, lots of group. Every year we have children in need, which gives money for children and everything, but also they send to different countries, but it's towards helping children. And they get millions, over a weekend, because a lot of people do their own things and, make funds and cakes and all sorts of stuff. So, it helps quite a lot. I mean, the situation now, there is a lot of unemployed people, not so much unemployed, but there's a lot of homeless people. Actually, I have never ever seen so many people homeless in England before. But then I think that there is one thing as well. There is a lot of people who are sitting in the streets asking for money, but they are not really homeless, because you can see the difference, when someone is truly homeless and when someone just sitting in the street asking for money. I think there is quite a lot as well of people using the situation to. So, one thing that personally I don't do anymore is give any money in the streets to people. I rather give money to organizations. They have places where the people who are really homeless can go there. They can have a bath. They have hairdressers that go and help them, and they have food, and they can rest and everything. And they are, get organized house, especially when it's very cold in winter. And I think I find it better to help people in that situation, when you help organizations who are doing the work rather than giving money in the street. Because, sometimes you can clearly see that they are not really, in need, homeless, really. So I think charity, Charles was very, very clear when he was quoting from the Spirit's book. And we know that charity, is the base of Spiritism. Without charity, there is no salvation, which is basic, is in the gospel and is in the whole philosophy of Spiritism. But, it's sometimes can be quite complex, the situation, because I think the greatest charity, sometimes is you have to give in your own home. I remember there is this message of Emmanuel, which was a spiritual guide of Chico Xavier, that was the Brazilian medium, who wrote many books and wonderful things. He said, sometimes we are very charitable with the people outside, and we are not charitable with their own family. We're quite rude to them. We don't consider them as well as we should. And he said, charity starts at home. And some people can be quite nice outside, and at home they are tyrants. But this is all thing to consider as well, because it's a complex thing. Of course, the first and foremost, that when you talk about charity, you talk about giving alms, helping to people. And it's interesting because, in the Spirit's book, one of the questions, in question 888, said, what's to be thought of almsgiving? And he said, sometimes begging degrades people, brutifies them, which is quite surprising, because there are ways and ways of helping and giving people things. I think one of the best, really, what you should do is to have a situation and in which begging should not be necessary. And I think, Charles was mentioning as well about France. There is a lot of organizations there that help people, and here in England, and I think throughout Europe and everywhere, because it is sad to have a person to have to beg. And many people, sometimes because they're unemployed or whatever situation led them to that, it can be quite humiliating. So best thing would be to organize something, a job, because a person who goes to work, at the end of the day, he feels worthy, and he feels that he has done something, he has fulfilled, his life has meaning. And just giving money, is not always the best thing to do. So helping organizations that help these people to prepare themselves so they can go back to jobs, and it is the best thing to do in relation to charity. But also, as we were saying, charity to one another as well, consideration, and to allow people to, feel dignified and everything. But I was talking to a friend of mine today, and she was talking about somebody who she had read in news. Actually, it was in Brazil, I think, if I'm not mistaken. A father who his daughter had been stalked by this man who he used to be her boyfriend, and he was quite aggressive, and so she left him, and he just wouldn't let go. So he stalked her for ages, and eventually he killed her, and he tortured her and everything. And he told people what he had done, and then afterwards, he didn't stay in prison. He was left because they were investigating whatever it was, and her father found out where he was, and he actually killed him. And the question was, what do you do in the situation? Because if we think in terms of Christian principles, you have to forgive your enemies, you have to give an opportunity to change and everything. But in a situation like that, what do you do really? I think it's something we really need to concentrate, because when we are not in a difficulty, in a problem, it's very easy to say, oh yes, I forgive, but when you're there in the middle of that situation of your child, of course, I don't think he should have killed him. My own view, because maybe if we allowed him to go to prison, would have been a better lesson for this person who was cruel and aggressive and a murderer, really, with clear intentions of doing harm. Because I think, one of the things that the Spirit's book says, if we do the same, then we become, vengeance makes you beneath the person that you're giving vengeance to, and is something that is very destructive. So if we are able to overcome and maybe not forgive, because in certain situations, I cannot imagine having your child brutally murdered like that. So I wouldn't, probably I wouldn't be able to forgive, but at least, we need to think about those things and to start guiding our own energy and forces towards something that's more above, the kind of people who do cruel things. But it's a very difficult thing, and it's it's, you cannot judge what every person will do. I mean, sometimes we have people who are able to do it, but and they become news, like but it's something that we need to think about, forgiveness. But at least we need to, and I think Charles mentioned it as well, a question of respect one another. If anything, respect one another, and consider, and as much as we possibly can within our lives, if we can treat people the way we like to be treated, I think would be much easier for us and everything. But each case is a different case, and giving a situation how we would behave in that situation, we don't know. The only thing we can do is to be aware of what is needed and how can we guide ourselves towards to do the best we can. Charity and justice is something important, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is. It is. It is. And I, I want to go back, and the first thing what Charlie said, it is the definition of charity, because um, it's not just giving money. So I did my part. We need to give our heart. Charity is a smile you give to someone. You know, as you said, Silvia, it is caring about the other, even though even you don't know this person. Um, so what what we need to do, what we need to improve in ourselves. Let me read what uh, Robbie Brown wrote for us here. Charity allows us to give back to the process that has allowed us to progress. We can always share a smile, greet people with kind words with little effort. Yeah, I like when Robbie said here, allow us to put us back on track. Put us back on track. And what make us going out of track? Why we need like catastrophes? Because in the two examples I gave when I was doing my introduction, I said we saw a mass charity recently with the COVID and with the flood in Rio Grande do Sul. But we saw the charity because of a destruction, because of a bad thing happened. So I do believe we are as a humankind in a wrong path because we need the bad things in order to do a good things instead doing good things every single day because we want, because it's good, because it is the right thing to do. Not I'm helping those people because poor guys, they lost their home, they lost everything. You know what I mean? Am I make sense? So you shake your head, my dear. So please help me here.
Yes. No, you are making sense. You know, I think you are making sense, because I'm sorry, I jumped in. I don't know if Charles wants to say
No,
something.
no, please go. Continue.
Because we need to, how could I put it? It's a kind of, treating people well, as we would like them to treat us, and to be able to give out, like Rob said, we put out, when we do something good, we are putting out there into the universe, because it grows. It's a chain thing. What you do, it's good. And in situations like this, I remember when there was the tsunami. Remember in 2004,
The New
it was
Year.
a massive. I remember I gave a whole day's salary to help them. But then, also when the Notre Dame was burned, I sent some of my hard-earned cash because I couldn't bear to see Notre Dame destroyed. And a lot of people, because it seems to me that humanity is at its best when things are worse. The situation in Rio Grande do Sul now, the flooding, a lot of people sending money, sending clothes, they are praying. And, when they had the tsunami in Japan as well, a lot of people lost their homes, they lost everything. I mean, the whole town disappeared. So we seem to when is necessary, we are very charitable. We come up on that. But you made a point. I don't know if Charles agree with me with that. During the COVID, people were very charitable. They were phoning each other. They were nice. They were complaining they couldn't see their family. And, you'd see people going visiting and staying outside of the house, just saying hello, waving their hands and everything. Now COVID is past, and everybody, oh, I can see my family, and everybody. And I personally know someone who was crying, oh my God, I can't see my family. And now that they haven't been to see their family for 6 months, and don't even call because they are so busy working, or because they are so busy with something, or they're going on holiday. And and you think, these are people who are complaining they could not see the family, and now they can and they don't go. And I'm sure, I'm absolutely certain that many people know someone, or even yourself, oh, I wish I could go and visit that person. Now you can and you don't, because life takes over. And I think that's one of the things we need to pay attention to, be, like you said, Stevan, to be aware that every day something is needed. Send out a prayer, phone someone. I personally, I was just thinking about yesterday, this friend of mine came to my mind, and I said, I'm going to send her a little note and say how she is. And then I thought about her today, and then I started doing something, did this, had to go out, came back, and I didn't, and she lost her husband not very long ago. And, they had been married for many, many years, and she's really taking it hard, even though, she knows he's not dead, and, life goes on in the spiritual world. She has all that knowledge, but she misses him, she misses him. It's being hard for her. So, 2 days, and I think, oh, I should send her a message, just a little note saying, I'm thinking of you, and I think so many times those are little acts of kindness. I think there is a quote from St. David's, patron saint of Wales, that used to say, do the small things. And I think those small things, a phone call, a little message, that makes it big, that is relevant to that person. And we need to do that things not only when there's tragedies, when there is huge need, and like you said, Stevan, because everybody knows that this tragedy has happened. So, and then afterwards you completely forget, because at the moment, their need really is going to start afterwards, isn't it? After everything, and that's when we forget and go on for something else. And I think that's the thing, to be aware of being there. We cannot go there, but we can help by praying or knowing someone, sending some money, whatever it is. And the little things like sending a note to a friend that comes to your mind 2-3 times a day, because they may be thinking, they may be in need. How many times sometimes you feel a bit down or something, and a friend calls you, so we need to be doing those little things, do the small things, that they become big, because the person who receives it will make a difference in their lives. And this is an act of charity, as we would if we were in the same situation. I don't know how you two feel about that.
Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the difficult times is motivating, increasing, stimulating, waking up the consciences, and the people are behaving better. I'm born in 1960, which means it was only 15 years after WW2. So for my parents, WW2, you remember from now 15 years ago, it was yesterday, it was not so old. And this was in my memory of my parents who suffered from this war and all their friends. And I could see my parents and the circle of friends around them. And what I noted is when someone was needing something, or had a project, or had a difficulty at home, or whatever, everybody came spontaneously without even you calling them. They came spontaneously to help you. And this solidarity, this fraternity, has been developed during these 6 years of WW2, which was quite strong, close to the boundary of Germany. And the people passed through necessities. You didn't find food in the shops, and you had tickets to get only so and so much bread or so and so much food per day, and so on. Very, very difficult time. And the people living all these years developed a solidarity which was really outstanding. And what I see in my generation, it was still, how to say, somehow a little bit of that. But today, it had been quite lost. Why? Because the people are living in facility, everyone by its own, independence, me first, and whatever. So you talked about COVID recently. Yes, indeed, COVID has. It was, how to say, a kind of a reminder. I would even say a kind of a small exercise. I don't want to be catastrophic, but the climate change which is coming may have much stronger consequences than the COVID had. Much more people will have to move, or some regions, the hail which happened this week here in France destroyed vineyards, destroyed a lot of things, and these things happening more and more. There will be shortages of food, and also the excessive heat or the flooding in Rio Grande do Sul. All these are consequences of this global warming. So it's coming slowly, progressively, but it is coming for sure. And the COVID was a kind of a training for that. Let's be charitable now. Let's not wait the last moment, because then it will be much more difficult. And even in terms of government and so on, when you are living in a house close to a river, the river has his normal bed, but then you have the 10-year flooding where the river goes out of the bed. And then you have the 100-year high level, which goes into the 100-year bed. So if your house is in the 100-year bed, you will be flooded once every 100 years. And with the global warming, this once every 100 years is becoming once every 10 years. But why did we build houses in those flooding areas which are at risk of flooding or at risk of landslide or whatever? Because it was cheaper. Because people want to earn money, to make profit short term, and so on. So all this vision has now to change, because this profit short term, you lose it 10 times, 100 times more the day there is a catastrophe like in Rio Grande do Sul. So this needs planification, needs to be prepared from now. And this is also, this benevolence towards everyone. We should not allow speculations, building houses in flooding area because it's cheaper and whatsoever. Really, we have to think about. Japan knows this very well because of some other risks, tsunami risk, earthquake risks. And they are building the houses in a different way, the way that the houses do not collapse when there is a quake. And you saw in Turkey a couple of years ago, even with the norms, construction norms, requiring calculations, and I know it because one of my last projects professionally was in Turkey. Turkey has really the up-to-date seismic code, really part inspired from the best one existing in the world. But was it really applied? As apparently it wasn't. Even in new constructions, you see. And this is all, selfishness, willing money, short terms profits, and so on. And all this is the opposite side of the charity. Charity is really not me first and the other after. This is selfishness, which is the opposite of the charity. Charity is really willing the good for everyone. And yes, so to stimulate the charity, we need difficult times. And this is why the good side of the difficult times is it wakes up the consciences and the charity. The charity needs also work on ourselves, do our moral reform, as we say, to know ourselves a little bit better, as per the question 919 of the Spirit's book. Who are we really? Are we charitable, or are we still selfish? Do we this charity action for having an interest back, or do we do them autonomously as per our will, just doing it for willing to do good and full stop, without waiting anything in return or in exchange? These are the questions we really have to ask us, and this will enable us to understand the need that the charity, this sentence of Spiritism, without charity there is no salvation. And Spiritist body of knowledge is also teaching us more than that. This, due to the law of affinity between incarnated and discarnated spirits, when you are doing charity, what type of spirits are you attracting? You are attracting good ones. And these good spirits will in turn encourage you and help you, and bringing a lot of opportunities for you to do more charity, to help more. So you enter in a kind of a virtuous circle. Whilst if you are selfish and willing short-term profits or things like that, what type of spirits will you attract? You will attract spirits which will, at the opposite, push you to get more and more and more. So instead of being in a virtuous circle, you are in a vicious circle. So the question clearly is, what do we want? Do we want to stay in a vicious circle, or do we want to enter in a virtuous circle? If we want to enter in a virtuous circle, in a win-win situation, let's go and do this charity. It's in our interest. The accounting in the spiritual world works opposite as on the earth. The more you give, the richer you are, and this is exactly what we have to think about. All what is material, all the profit we have made, will stay here the day we go to the other side. But our conscience of having done wrong things, of not having applied the correct, properly the seismic code, or having sold a land in a flooding area for constructing a house, this we will take with us as a bad conscience, and sooner or later we will have to come back to feel it in our own skin. So to suffer it ourselves, and also to repair the damages we have caused. So having all this in mind, we see the logic of the charity. It is in a win-win situation. So let's go, let's do it.
Let's do it, Silvia.
Very simple, isn't it?
As Gilson da Gama says, we always have a way to help.
Exactly.
Yeah. With a smile, with money, with hands-on, we always have a way to help. Yes. Let me see. Also, as Gilson said, very well said, we are responsible for what we haven't done to the others. Yeah, it is important for us to always keep in our mind what Kardec wrote: without charity there is no salvation. That's it. I think this sentence summarizes everything. Puts charity as an act of love, put charity as a way to help, and salvation, it is our salvation, because as Daniel Assisi said during his talk on the video, we are not helping the others, we are helping ourselves. And when we start to understand this point, when we start to put ourselves in someone's shoes, I think everything is going to be different. Everything will change. When you say, I don't know, perhaps you know, Silvia, I don't know in which book I read this. I think it was one of the books of André Luiz. The good spirits, they do good unconsciously. We're going to reach there. We will reach someday there, this point. But meanwhile, we need to be an example. I think that's the only thing will make a difference today. Being an example is also a type of charity. Because if you teach your children the way you have to do charity, giving up about things, you as society, in the neighborhood you live, always keeping charity. I can tell you, a friend of a colleague of mine, we work together. He lives in the U.S. and recently his second child born. I will not remember the name, but it is not a neighborhood. It is a type of, I don't know, group in which you will say, "Hey, this family just had a baby. Let's help them to get fed. Let's make sure they will be fed." Every single one from this group, they don't know each other. It's just a group like Facebook.
Neighborhood, you mean? Is it a
Sorry?
neighborhood? Is it a
Yeah,
neighborhood? Yeah.
it's not a neighborhood. It is. The point is, for 1 month and a half, almost 2 months, every single day a family knocking his door and giving him a plate of food. Oh, today I made a lasagna. Today I made rice and beans. Today I made this barbecue. Today I made this whatever. And so they, of course, they put in the book, "Hey, I will feed the family today." So otherwise, you will receive a lot of people on the same day. So, and they will kind of doing a kind of a rotation. This is wonderful. To be honest, this is amazing. I will try. I will ask him what's the name of this group or this type of
But
help. I don't
that's
know.
exactly the thing, isn't it? Do the small things,
Yeah, exactly.
because
Yeah,
it's not that much for anyone, and you help someone
and
who
yeah, and he's not
having a
poor.
new baby
He's
is always difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not poor. He's not under difficulties. No, no, he's perfect, fine. Everything's going fine. It's just some people saying, "Hey, don't worry about food. Take care of your child because here is your food."
Yeah. That's what makes the difference,
Yeah,
for them, because it's very difficult having a small baby. They cry a lot and all that. But it's really interesting. But I think it's interesting what you're saying now, because here in the Spirit's book, in question 888, the Spirit tells us, you must distinguish between almsgiving, properly so called, and beneficence. Many who are really poor are restrained from begging by the dread of humiliation and suffer silently and in secret. He who is really humane seeks out this hidden misery and relieves it without ostentation. Love one another, such is the divine law by which God governs all the worlds of the universe. Love is the law of attraction for the living and organized beings. Attraction is the law of love for inorganic matter. It's amazing to think that even inorganic matter is
Yeah,
guided by love.
yeah.
But that's how it is. It says that's how God governs all the worlds of the universe. And what you were saying, the story you were telling, it showed a lot of consideration, a lot of respect, and really loving your neighbor. A simple thing, you make it because you have to cook for yourself anyway. You make a little extra and you give it to
Exactly.
someone
Yeah.
who is in a moment, is vulnerable, needs support and everything. And this is magical. This makes a lot of difference for the people, and it's those small things that makes all the difference in our lives. And it's like he says here, go and seek out the hidden misery, the difficulty. I think I let me know where it is, because I'm gonna move. I'm going to move there because this is the kind of people I like to have around.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And he said this is normal because he's part of this. Is oh, I like Silvia. For you, you live yourself alone there. You got a bad flu. What's nice if someone knock your door? Hey, my dear, here's your soup.
Oh God, yeah, that would be
Even though
nice.
you are not hungry, you will be hungry that time.
Yeah, it's
You
true.
know. So for me, I have no relatives here. It's gonna be a huge help if someone do this for me because I had to cook, look my kid, look the baby, to help with my wife. It's just me and just
Exactly.
her.
Yeah.
You know. So
Do the small things, like St. David said.
well, let's. I don't wanna make any merchandise here, but let's use the Tesco approach. Every little helps.
Really, yeah. But the funny thing is that there was, this person you talk about, this organization, they had an ad like that of a family. The baby cried, 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 and then the woman comes to the door and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, the baby's crying," and he said, "No, no, I made you some food."
Yeah.
And yeah, and they say, "Oh my God," she was so taken aback. And it's interesting because I remember someone telling me once, she was in the bus stop talking, and then she started talking to this woman who was in the bus stop. The bus was taking some time, so she was chatting and talking, and then they took the same bus and were talking. And then when she was going to get off the bus, this woman said to her, "Do you know, I was thinking about killing myself today because I was really, really down, and I was very depressed and unhappy, and I was really thinking I was going to kill myself. But because you saw me and you talked to me, I'm not going to do it." And
Yeah.
I always remember when she told me, I was so touched, I nearly cried. And just a chat with someone in the bus stop, you know, and you don't know how people are feeling that day. So, don't be ashamed. Oh, I'm not going to talk to anybody. And get off the phone, because people are now so on our phones. They don't see anybody, they bumped into you, and talk to the people near you. You may be being used by God, their guardian angels, to help them in that difficulty, So that's charity in action. I think that was a phrase that Raul Teixeira used to use a lot. Charity is loving action.
Yeah, I don't know. You perhaps know better than me, my dear. I don't know.
Yes, I remember him saying that because I translated him so many times. So
Yeah. So, final words, Charles.
Yeah, really, I mean, charity, there is no mistake somehow. Huh? It's something that you recognize easily. Huh? It is something which may come in conflict with, how to say, business or, but all the trends today goes in this direction of ethics, of compliance, of sustainable, of how to say, uh, trying to look how the products are made, if there is no children employment and whatsoever. I think the things are moving somehow to this direction through laws and regulations, which unfortunately are still needed nowadays. But it is positive because this also calls our conscience. But the day really where humankind will understand that out of charity there is no salvation, then the thing will get that is really the key, which will make our world have this transition towards a better world. We are not there yet, but it will come for sure and quite soon. So let's be optimistic. As usual, spiritists should be optimistic, giving a positive message, also not message for illusions or dreams or whatever. No, things which are for which we have arguments in order to understand the win-win situation of them, and in order to enable us and help us and stimulate us to become every day a little bit better than the day before.
That's it. Let's do charity, my friends. It is the only way we can do something for the others and for ourselves. Okie doke. So, Silvia, remind me what was the agreed topic for next week? It is.
I think it was about is law of progress, isn't it?
Yeah.
If the guides humanity, is there a law of progress that guides humanity, and is our world progressing or regressing?
Wow.
Law of progress.
We are going backwards or forward?
Yeah.
Good.
And I think one thing, talking about charity, just to conclude, I think we need to learn to be charitable to ourselves as well. Because I think there's a quote from the Dalai Lama, if you're not, or from Buddha, if you're not good for yourself, you cannot be good for others. And it's the base of, what Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. So, be charitable to yourself as well. Consider it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it.
That's it. Enjoy the rest of your night, my friends. Thank you so much, Robbie Brown, for your comments, Lu VM, Gilson da Gama, Charles, Silvia. Thank you so much for your help. It was a pleasure to be here with you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good night, my friends.
Okay, good night.
God
God bless. Have a good week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Ta-ra.